YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. In today's video, we're going through every single NFL team, and I'm giving you their best draft fits for the upcoming 2020 NFL Draft. Really enjoyed creating this video, and this isn't a mock draft, so everyone's on the same page here. Not a mock draft, and it doesn't necessarily have to be first-round prospects. A lot of first-round prospects are in here, a lot of top prospects, a lot of Alabama prospects, but it could be throughout any round, throughout any part of the draft, just the best fit for each team. Very interesting one. A lot of good fits here. A lot of ones I feel real good about and teams could be strongly considering come draft time, even though we have a long way to go. But in the meantime, you can check out our Patreon and get updated mock drafts every single week. In the offseason, we got you covered here on YouTube. A bunch of mock drafts, bunch of draft coverage. But if you're needing those mock drafts now, you just go over to our Patreon. There's a link in the description, or you can just go to patreon.com/thegoathouse, and you get updated NFL mock drafts every single week with the correct order, obviously constantly changing. If you sign up for that to get the mock drafts, you also get score predictions every week from Junior and playoff predictions every single week. I update those myself. So a lot of extra content there on the Patreon, link in the description. And then 40K is our subscriber goal by 2020. Please help us out by subscribing in season. We got videos like these here and there, mainly recaps, power rankings, and all kinds of different game predictions. We predict every game all year, even in the playoffs, in the offseason, free agency, and NFL draft coverage. So it'll be worth it to subscribe and help us reach that 40K goal. Click that like button. Check us out on Twitter at GoatHouseNFL. Link in the description. Let's start with the Cardinals, and my best draft fit for them is CeeDee Lamb of Oklahoma. And pretty interesting, which actually plays a little bit of a part here, is that his former quarterback, former teammate Kyler Murray, is the quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals. And, I mean, your quarterback is what makes your system. Kingsbury got Kyler Murray because that's what he wanted the system to be. And we notice they're running more 5 wide receiver sets than anybody we've seen ever in the NFL. They rarely run tight ends. They're constantly rotating receivers in there. And some guys that are kind of, came out of nowhere. Guys that, don't have the talent of Larry Fitzgerald or maybe even, Christian Kirk. So the more receivers, the more very talented receivers, the better this offense will be. So I would not be surprised. I'm not guaranteeing anything here, but I would not be surprised they took a good look at CeeDee Lamb in the first round. We know he fits the system. He fits the Kyler Murray offense, and the more talented receivers, the better. And Larry Fitzgerald, on top of it, not going to last very much longer, even though he's still playing at a pretty high level. CeeDee Lamb makes that offense that much more dangerous right away, and that would be fun. Yeah, I love this Cardinals offense already. Seeing all these receivers, I'm a believer in that. Rotating a lot of receivers, getting a lot of them out there at the same time. It's going to be fun for a long time. They're changing the game over there, adding a guy like this or some of these other top-tier receivers, the best receiver class ever in NFL history. But adding a guy like this takes them to another level. So I like the fit there. We're on to the Atlanta Falcons. I like Jeff Okudah for them, the corner from Ohio State. Why? We know they need defense, even though the defense recently has actually picked it up. But you take a look at their corners. Their corners tell you, it was a different league back then, even though there's some young corners. Desmond Trufant, more of that lockdown guy. And Isaiah Oliver, who's still young, he's kind of more of that lockdown guy, long corner that can make a pass deflection downfield. He can be part of their future. But today's NFL, unlike just a couple years ago where lockdown corners were the best, the playmaking corners are better. And the Falcons desperately need that playmaking corner on the outside. And the great thing about Jeff Okudah and why he's known as, right now, a top 10 player in this draft is he's a playmaking corner first with freak athleticism, but he could be a lockdown corner as well. Pairing those together could make a future best corner in football. But the Falcons need a playmaking corner desperately out there. They could be in the market for Okudah. They are winning some games now, so maybe that knocks them down a little bit, but doesn't change the fact that it's a fit. Again, not a mock draft. It's all about the fit here. To the Baltimore Ravens, I like this one a lot. Kenneth Murray, the linebacker from Oklahoma, he's a Baltimore Raven. That is the style guy they like, high motor linebacker. And they actually have a few free agents actually at the corner position as well coming up. So they could be looking at another corner. They're always good at making sure they have the right talent out there. But they could, obviously, it's no secret they could use the guy inside. The outside pass rushers are starting to pick it up, but there's no secret they can use the guy in the future right there. And this is a guy that he can be a secret weapon. You can move around. He's an extremely athletic, rangy linebacker. He would plug in and start on the inside there, but he's a guy that, I mean, who blitzes the best in football? The Ravens. Martindale's defense blitz better than anybody in football. I can see them getting very creative with Kenneth Murray there from the inside. And again, you can throw him outside if you want to because he's that athletic and a super rangy linebacker. We don't see that many possible first-round talents from Oklahoma, but this guy is legit. And I was hesitant early in the year. You see these big plays, but because he's from Oklahoma, you get a little hesitant. But he's the real deal, ladies and gentlemen. He should be a first-round pick. If not, you may be able to get him early in the second round. But I absolutely love the fit there with the Baltimore Ravens. That's their type of guy, and it could be a need in 2020. The Buffalo Bills, very interesting one because it might be a long shot to actually end up with this guy. It's Chase Young, who is known as maybe the best player in the draft. He's my number one player in the draft. That doesn't necessarily he goes number one because, quarterbacks. There's some really good quarterbacks in the draft. Obviously, Joe Burrow at the top. And then teams are very desperate for offensive linemen too. Why Chase Young as the Bills fit? I think he fits what they like in a pass rusher. You look at their defense too. You look at the Bills' defense. It's one of the top defenses in the NFL right now, and that's without a top-tier pass rush, really. Jerry Hughes is solid. That's what he is. He's solid. Nothing more, but nothing less. I like Jerry Hughes. On the opposite, you don't really have much production. It's almost like you got more production inside, and it's almost like you got more production when you take Lorenzo Alexander and you put him on the edge. He's a 4-3 outside linebacker. He's a veteran. He's been in the league for a long time. Sometimes they put him on the end, whether it's stand-up or off the ball, which I've noticed as well. The Bills, base defense is a 4-3, but they give different looks. The guys on the end will be up on the line, off, standing up, and that's kind of where Lorenzo Alexander comes into play. But I think Chase Young would fit in that spot perfectly, and he's an every down pass rusher. He can put his hand in the dirt, and he's athletic enough to stand up. He can even drop in coverage. If there is a team out there that's not picking early or not expected to pick early that would trade away a lot to go up and get him, it'd be the Buffalo Bills, and that's why I got them right here. It's a fit in terms of the player on the field, and I think they would be willing to trade a lot to go up and get him because they've done a very good job drafting. They got a lot of young talent, and they can win games on defense right now. Imagine if they can, they actually bring an elite pass rush to the table with Chase Young and guys like Jerry Hughes. You got Ed Oliver coming from the inside. Then they are winning games on defense constantly. While on the offensive side, you could use some receivers. If you trade away some picks, it's a deep receiver class. I don't think you need multiple. I think you need one. I think you can get one in the mid-rounds here. And Josh Allen's going to continue to get better. So this is a team that I can see with a fit for Chase Young, but also trading up a ways to actually go and get him. So very interesting there. Again, unlikely to actually get him because a lot of things would have to happen, really. But I see a good fit there. We're on to the Panthers. T. Higgins, wide receiver from Clemson, who is projected to be a first-round pick. I like for the Panthers a lot. They are really missing talent, really, besides Christian McCaffrey, and I like DJ Moore. We'll throw DJ Moore in there. Hopefully he gets better. But, top-tier talent besides Christian McCaffrey, they are lacking that. They need to help out. Whoever their quarterback's going to be, I think Kyle Allen will be their future quarterback. And they are actually missing Devin Funchess, which Devin Funchess, solid receiver, nothing special at all. He was a sideline threat because he's a big body guy. He can shake off the press, and they're missing that. And T. Higgins brings that same presence and a better catch radius, and way more athleticism. You add this to the offense with guys like DJ Moore and Christian McCaffrey. It takes a load off of DJ Moore, makes him better. It takes a big load off Christian McCaffrey, makes him better. It makes the quarterback better. T. Higgins is exactly what this team is missing here. I know everyone would like a guy like Jerry Jeudy, who isn't included in this video because he fits basically anybody. He doesn't have a specific role or doesn't need a specific team. But this is kind of more of their fit, what they need. It's more of what they need, a T. Higgins style guy. And that could be an interesting pick in the first round, and a very likely pick, actually, I think. We're moving on to the Bears, a very interesting one. People want to see quarterback for the Bears. That's exactly what I gave them here. And without a first-round pick, it's pretty interesting. I gave them Tyler Huntley from Utah, and there's a lot of talk about a guy like Jalen Hurts, and I think Jalen Hurts can fit. I like Huntley a little more than Jalen Hurts. We talk about the Bears don't have a first-round pick, and people forget that the Bears have other needs as well. They have other needs. They desperately need another pass rusher. They desperately need another tight end. You know, they're going to have Danny Trevathan as a free agent, Witkowski as a free agent. I think they need another big-time playmaker in offense. So there's just not enough firepower on offense. But obviously, quarterback's a huge need. And if you get a guy like Huntley in the mid-rounds and have him compete with, I guess, Trubisky or whoever you sign in free agency, you know, there's a couple guys they could be after. Huntley, to me, fits Nagy's offense, and it's a guy that's really under the radar, been playing very well. You know, reminds me of Teddy Bridgewater a little bit. I said that last year at some point with Huntley, and he's gotten a lot better since last year. He's a very accurate quarterback, a very safe quarterback. He's not going to have any, you know, terrible misses or terrible turnovers. He's pretty mobile, can move around, and we see Nagy trying to throw some option in there in the offense, and Trubisky's not able to run it. You know, RPO, Trubisky can't read. You know, defensive ends or outside linebackers in the RPO. I think Huntley can do it. Obviously, Hurts is going to be a little more athletic, but Hurts, we've seen him fumble, have some pretty bad ones, some bad interceptions too, and that's kind of puts you back in the same situation. You know, Trubisky doesn't have a bunch of, you know, bad interceptions or anything, but he's missing throws, you know, pretty badly, honestly. Huntley's not going to do that. He's not going to, I guess, wow a bunch of times downfield, but he's an athletic guy that's going to be pretty accurate in what they want to do, you know, be able to hit those out routes, those quick out routes. You know, so I like Huntley. Not enough people are talking about him. You know, if it's the Bears, you know, with that second round pick, you can focus on, you know, you traded a lot away for Khalil Mack, and he's not really producing right now because the whole focus is on him because you have no other pass rush whatsoever. It's non-existent. Leonard Floyd's not working out. You need somebody else. So I think with that second round pick, you can even, it's hard to say now, but you can focus on that. You can focus on a tight end and still get Huntley in the mid-rounds. I fear that they will like Jalen Hurts a little more because he's more of a winner, and I think they thought they missed out on Deshaun Watson, who was a winner. But Hurts, I worry about his turnover, you know, too many turnovers, and I worry about a team just overdrafting him. I think you almost can wait longer for Huntley, who could be a safer and better quarterback, really, than a guy like Jalen Hurts. The Bengals, I mean, obvious one. You had to put Joe Burrow. You have to put Joe Burrow. And I can think outside the box and try to find another guy, which is possible. But you got to go Joe Burrow here because he fits. And it's not because they're supposed to have the first pick and because Joe Burrow is supposed to be the first pick. That plays into it. But he fits tremendously. You know, I'm trying to think of a Joe Burrow comparison who he reminds me of. He's a way better prospect, has much more potential, but can compare to a Jared Goff. He really can. And obviously right now you can't say Joe Burrow's better because he plays in college football. Jared Goff's in the NFL. But I like the idea and potential way more for Joe Burrow for sure. A little more big play to him and, you know, hits easier, throws a little better and less likely to make that big-time turnover. And then Jared Goff. Why would the Bengals want that type of guy? We got Zach Taylor as their head coach. He was the quarterback coach of the Rams, of Jared Goff. And that's just the style. Even if you don't compare the two, it's a similar style. It's the same style quarterback you're looking for. That's what they're going for. I know Tua's hurt now, but I don't think and there was a debate. Would they go Tua? Would they go Joe Burrow? You know, and the debate was which one's better. They're going to go with the best quarterback that fits, and all along Burrow was the best guy that fit. You know, they didn't draft just a year ago, just this last draft. They didn't draft Ryan Finley to be a backup quarterback in a future system that does not fit him. They drafted him to be a future backup quarterback in a system that fits him. You know, and Tua doesn't really fit what they're trying to do there. Joe Burrow definitely does. It's their style. It's Zach Taylor's style of quarterback. So if they have the first pick, Joe Burrow, I think, would be the pick because it's a tremendous fit, and he's worthy of the first pick. The Browns, A.J. Epinesa, the defensive end from Iowa. If you like Myles Garrett, you're going to like Epinesa. Obviously, Myles Garrett's a better prospect. He's a little more freaky, a little more of a freaky athlete. Epinesa has a little more strength to him. But if you look at their technique, you know, their handwork, their arm usage, it's basically the same thing. They both can bull rush you, just use pure strength. But the handwork, the hand technique for Epinesa remind me of Myles Garrett. I'm not going to compare the two. You can find a better comparison, just the way they use their hand and the strength they have. But Epinesa is a 4-3 end. I don't see him playing, you know, off the ball position, which is fine. You know, I think Dorsey would love the duo. I think he's going to be in love with a guy like Epinesa. You know, he's got the technique down. He's very strong. I think we can see a future duo, possibly, again, not a mock draft, of Epinesa and Myles Garrett there. Olivier Vernon isn't part of the long-term future. I don't know if he really fits as well as they originally thought either. They just kind of got him for a low price, so it's definitely worth a shot. But Epinesa I like, and I think Dorsey will really, really like for the Browns there. The Dallas Cowboys, we want Ashtyn Davis, the safety from California, a guy that I think has Cowboys written all over him. He has Jerry Jones written all over him. It's a Jerry Jones type guy, and he's really grown on me too, Ashtyn Davis, that is, because I like the guys that can do it all, and to me, he can do it all. We see this guy line up in the box. We've seen him man-on-man with people. He can be physical with them. He can run with them, but he also can go back and play safety, play center field, and be a playmaker at the same time. He's got freak athleticism, super speedy, and he's just a total package safety, do-it-all safety, which are the top-tier safeties in the NFL today. He's kind of been labeled, where is he, early second, late first, so the Cowboys, pretty flexible there. They can get him, if they want to go late in late first, whether it's trading up from the second, whatever it is, or they can possibly get him in the second. It's no surprise, with the safety here, because it is the biggest need. I didn't go throughout every team here and do the biggest need, but for the most part I did, and we know that's a big need. And to me, it's their type of safety. They want to be able to move them around, play different spots. I mean, it's their type. It's definitely their type of guy there. We're on to the Denver Broncos. Very interesting. It's always interesting when you got a quarterback. And that's what I got. I got Justin Herbert here. And, the question is, do they even want to go quarterback? Because they have Flacco. Brandon Allen's not looking bad. But they have Drew Lock, who I expect them to throw in there and get some kind of shot, some kind of try. And I like Drew Lock. He very well could be the quarterback of the future. But that's definitely not the plan right this second. Not for sure. It could be part, we got to see them try him out there. And I thought he would go in the first round last year. He did not. So the Broncos, for them to wait in the second round, obviously they liked him, but they didn't have a first round grade on him. They didn't have a high grade on him. They would rather trade back and still take Noah Fant, guys like that. Doesn't mean they don't like him. They like Drew Lock. You take a quarterback, you definitely like him. I like Drew Lock. But my point is, if Herbert is definitely 100% higher graded than Drew Lock, and they think they have a future with that, they will take the chance. And to me, this guy fits what they want. We know it's very specific what they want, what John Elway wants, and this is a guy that I can see John Elway specifically, working with. And Drew Lock has some of those traits too, the deep ball strength, but arm strength. But Justin Herbert, I think, fits that a little more, fits the prototype a little more. What he needs to work on is just going through his progressions and kind of reading NFL defenses. Justin Herbert 2 years ago was on my radar, and he was, if I had to make rankings back then, he was going to be my number one quarterback. And that's why those rankings back then don't matter that much, because you're going off pure arm talent there, and he has ridiculous arm talent. And over the years, the next few years, who becomes your number one is the guys that improve, but start to develop the mind for the game, reading defenses and elevating their game based on what the defense gives you. And Herbert, not that he's really lacking in that department, but other guys are really passing him in that department. But I still think he could be a top 10 pick. Tremendous arm talent. You're just going to want to work with him. And that's the guy that Broncos want to work with, And I know Broncos fans be like, well, Drew Lock's our guy. And he very well could be. But if you can't be afraid to get better. If they think they can get better here, then they're going to do it. They do have some other needs, but I don't think the Broncos are a team that has a whole bunch of needs. Where they're going to be picking, in that range they're going to be picking, I think the teams around them have way more needs. So that's a good thing, and you could afford to do something like this here. And the thought was they were going to take a quarterback in the first round last year. They did not. They waited a little bit. They got their other pieces, And again, I like Locke, but Herbert's going to be an upgrade for the future there. So we'll see if they do it. I think where his talent is, where his skill is at, that's a Bronco type quarterback. We're on to the Detroit Lions. I like Christian Fulton for them, cornerback from LSU. Reminds me a little bit of Darius Slay, which they need another one of. Maybe a tiny bit more length than Darius Slay. He's got that athletic ability. He can lock down, the top receiver on the other team. And that's a problem for the Lions right now. It's all of a sudden it flipped. Now they're kind of an offensive team. Even with Jeff Driscoll in there, they're more of an offensive team. And Patricia's a defensive guy. He needs the right pieces. He's done a good job of finding the right linebackers, I think, over the years. They really built the D line up this offseason. And it's maybe a little disappointing. I think people expected to be one of the better defensive lines in football. But you just signed some of these guys, a lot of new faces. It could take another year. I think they would trust those guys. Obviously, if there's a good pass rusher, defensive lineman for them, they're not going to pass on that guy. But I think I feel good saying that it'll get better, their current defensive line, with some time. What their problem is, they're giving up a lot of passing yards through the air. and they're pretty much teams are throwing away from Darius Slay. We see Darius Slay locking down receivers. They're throwing away from him. Melvin's okay. Justin Coleman's a slot corner. They're going to need a guy like Fulton. They need another corner on the outside. And at the same time, Darius Slay has some minor injuries here and there. He's off the field. He's kind of getting up there in age, even though I'm not worried about him retiring or anything like that. But I think you get my point. He's not going to be around forever. So they need another one opposite him for now, and a guy that can be that number one of the future. And I think a guy like Kristian Fulton could fit with them. He could be a first-round pick. I'm not going to guarantee he's a first-round pick. He's still one of those guys that, maybe can slide early second. So maybe with some movement, the Lions can make something happen. I think they desperately need another corner. I think they got good young safeties. I think they'll be set in that department for the future. I think just corner is their biggest need on defense. And Fulton, to me, is a pretty good fit there. The Packers, I may surprise people with the offensive line. Who knows? I know some Packers fans could agree with me. Offensive tackle Alex Leatherwood from BAMA should be a first-round guy. Another guy I'm not going to guarantee. I think a mid to late first round. Very talented. To me, I like him at right tackle, especially on the Packers. I think he's that mean, nasty offensive lineman the Packers always go get. Seems like they always go get the Big Ten or the SEC guy. They have to fit that profile. But what I love about the Packers, what they do best, is they make sure they retune the offensive line so they don't have to rebuild it, and that's what I love. And that's why they always have a good offensive line. They retune it. They just tune it up a little bit, retool it, we can call it, instead of having to fully rebuild it, which so many teams do wrong. And we've seen the guard position kind of opened up. There was some question. They had some new guys come in. They lost some guys and some guys playing not to the level they wanted to play, and they go out and draft Elgton Jenkins. And that was almost to be, he has a chance to start, going into the season, but he's going to be the guy of the future because they want to keep that tool. They don't want to ever go down mid-season. Turns out Elgton Jenkins is a heck of a guard, and he's playing very well for them, so it's the right decision. Tackle, they're going to need to retool that. Balaga's actually playing pretty well. We've seen him in the past with his injuries, on and off, and he's getting up there in age, so they want to make sure that they have that guy for the future there who honestly could probably play at a better level than Bulaga as well, honestly, right now. And he plays left tackle for Alabama, Tua being a lefty. I think very flexible. I think you can move this guy to right tackle, no problem. Probably can play better there. So this is a guy I think that fits, the Packers' prototype offensive lineman, and they do a phenomenal job of just making sure they retool that offensive line to keep Rodgers, guys like Aaron Jones, their future, their best players, their franchise players protected, and they're very smart about it. The Texans don't have a first-round pick. I want a guy that could be a first-round pick, but also mainly second-round talk right now, possible, day two. Possibilities. Outside linebacker is a pass rusher, Terrell Lewis from Alabama. I think he fits their defense perfectly. They run a 3-4 defense. You need an outside linebacker and rush the passer. Terrell Lewis is the guy. J.J. Watt is a defensive end in their defense. He is a pass rusher, but he's a defensive end. So you need something else. And I know Merciless pretty solid, but another guy that's playing at a pretty high level, but he's aging, always has injury concern, just like J.J. Watt. So you definitely need another pass rusher. Terrell Lewis is the guy that fits. I just see him playing outside linebacker for the Texans. I could see it. And the interesting thing about Alabama guys is you predict the next year who will be the guys talked about the most for the draft at each position. At one point, a couple years ago, it was like Raekwon Davis is going to be that guy who's the interior defensive lineman. And then the next year, all of a sudden, this guy, Quinnen Williams, same thing for Alabama. Anthony Jennings, who I like a lot, like his length, he could be in this conversation as well. That was kind of the guy we expected. Now we got this guy, Terrell Lewis, who's really stepping up, making a name for himself. A freak athlete who would fit in there opposite of Merciless there for the future for the Houston Texans, who don't have a first-round pick. The Colts need a receiver pretty badly, in my opinion. I like DeVonta Smith, another Alabama guy, a lot of Alabama guys. I think this is the best Alabama team in terms of draft talent. And you may say, well, how is it not the best Alabama team? They have a loss. Well, it's because Joe Burrow and his two weapons, or three weapons that he has over there, those guys are that good. But yeah, the Bama draft talent's unbelievable. DeVonta Smith, to me, fits the Colts offense. It's kind of fits what they need. They desperately need a receiver, in my opinion. I think they do. You see, T.Y. Hilton has injuries here and there. He's a very quick receiver. He's got speed to him, don't get me wrong, but very quick. And yeah, the injuries are popping up, and that's unfortunate. And then you got a guy like Paris Campbell who gives you quickness as well, but he has some speed. But to me, it's cutting across the field and kind of going the screen pass, the short game. You can send them on a post here and there. It's mainly drags. And they need some speed down the sideline, some big playability with some length. But the Colts are, they want the receiver that can do it all at the same time. And to me, that's DeVonta Smith. He has a real good route running ability, but he's going to stretch the field down the sideline with his speed. And that's exactly what they need. They need that big-time receiver. DeVonta Smith should be in the first-round conversation. Some people still think second round. Well, okay, Colts can get him either one. Whatever it is, I'm not here to say where they're exactly going to get him. We're just talking about fits. But I like DeVonta Smith. I think he fits what the Colts need. And I think they need help at the receiver position more than people realize, honestly. So DeVonta Smith from Alabama, I like for the Colts. Here's one I like a lot. The Jags go with the defensive back from Alabama. We just had 3 in a row, didn't we? XAVIER McKinney. He's playing safety for Alabama right now. He has some corner experience. I can see him moving to corner in the NFL. I'm fine with him either position. He should be a first-round pick. He's very physical. That's why I like him at corner. I think he'd be very physical at the line. He has the athletic ability to run with people. Now, who was kind of both positions? Who would they have to move to safety to corner? Jalen Ramsey, who they just traded. Just because they traded Ramsey doesn't necessarily mean they're going to go find the replacement with the pick, or their pick, or the pick they got from the Rams. Too many people get caught up on that, so I'm not saying that. But I think this is a good fit because I think the Jags, they could use a safety or a corner, really. They really could use either one. And you get a physical guy that I think will have a better NFL career than college career, but he's having a pretty good college career as well. So I really like this fit. I think they'll be impressed with a guy like this. If if they're just strictly looking for safety, then maybe they'll like Delpit a little better, but I can see them liking McKinney actually a little better, for that defense. So very intriguing prospect, and that's why I listed him at DB there. Kansas City Chiefs, I love this one. It's an interesting one. I got DeAndre Swift, running back from Georgia. And you may say that's a first-round prospect possibly. And running back, the Chiefs are going to use a first-round pick on a running back. I know some people are anti-running back in the first round. It's a pretty good running back class. And people may say, well, they need offensive line. You see it's beat up. They need defense pretty bad, mainly corner, linebacker, whatever it may be. And that's true. They could go that route. I think that's why they didn't trade for a guy like Jalen Ramsey, because they still, even though they're a very good team, because they may have the best player in football and a very good system, they knew they had some needs. But they have a running back problem right now as well. And it's an offensive team. We're not hiding that whatsoever. While you have Mahomes, you need to make sure this offense is as good as it can be. You want to be able to put up 40-plus points a game. 30-plus is even good enough. You want to be able to do that, and you can do that with Mahomes. You just have to have the right pieces. Offensive line, to me, they have the right pieces on the offensive line. It's just a matter of staying healthy. I think they're playing everything safe right now. They're being smart. They know they have a future, so a real good future. So I think they have the offensive line. They have Cameron Irving. That's a guy that's a pretty good backup. He's starting for them most this year. He's struggled at times. But that's a pretty darn good backup. They could use a piece here and there. I've always been a fan with, going like second, third, fourth round with your offensive linemen. You look at the past, most success from offensive linemen have come in those rounds. So that's kind of my take on the offensive line. They could go corner, but like I said, you build this offense as good as you can get it, and it's going to be, that's how you win. You don't try to change your identity. Yeah, it's great to have both. You know how hard it is to get both. You look at all these teams, they have a great defense for years, and finally their offense is good, but the defense went away. It's because things change over time. Guys go downhill. Things happen. Injuries happen, and you can't focus on building one. But if for so many years, you kind of got to go both, and you can do that with getting a guy like DeAndre Swift. But when your offense is supposed to be that good, you go get a guy like that, a guy that everyone knows is extremely hard runner inside the tackles, can bounce outside, freak athlete. This guy instantly makes this offense that much better, and I think he's got a pretty high ceiling with catching the ball out of the backfield. It's something that will get better, and it's just. Right now, they have that situation with the two Williams. Mainly they want to use Damian Williams if he's healthy, but McCoy too. So it's kind of Damian Williams, McCoy. You can throw all that out the window with DeAndre Swift. You just get, he's the guy. Obviously, you need a backup that's going to take some reps, but he's the guy. I think you could take him in the first round, and that offense gets a lot better. Chargers, Tristan Wirfs from Iowa, offensive lineman, should be a top 15 pick, we'll call it. Chargers should be picking that in that range, I suppose. We'll see. Hard to predict right now. But to me, this is their type of offensive lineman. You look at their future. I guess we kind of got to go back to predicting. Could Rivers be extended? Could he be a guy for another year? They signed Tyrod Taylor to an extra year for a reason. I think they really like him. And I think it's a team open to be able to run different schemes on the offensive line, whether it's a zone scheme or gap scheme. I mean, some teams kind of have set schemes there. And I think Chargers, especially if they go with Tyrod Taylor, I think you could be seeing a little bit of both. And Tristan Wirfs is that guy that we can see a little bit of both from. You look at Andrew Thomas is probably the best offensive lineman in the class, but a guy I think like Tristan Wirfs I think would fit that offense a little better. And it's no secret the Chargers need an offensive lineman. I think it's a guy that can play left or right tackle. Obviously, Russell Okung's pretty good. He's getting up there in age, has the injury concerns. So, I mean, if they like him, they want him back, and he's healthy. Wirfs plays right tackle. But, I mean, there's really no worst-case scenario. He's either starting at right, he's starting at left, and you get better on your offensive line. So, and he's really good offensive lineman, in the short game, kind of running the ball there. And you got your really good duo. The Chargers got their duo. I know Melvin Gordon probably would have to be extended, but Chargers will make sure they have that duo. So I think he fits the Chargers. I think it's a guy they will be in the market for. The Rams went with JEDRICK Wills, another Alabama player, another Alabama offensive lineman. Another guy that's kind of flexible. Will he play left or right? And I think he can play either one, and that's kind of where he fits in with the Rams because Rams offensive line, one of the better ones in football last year, this year, towards the bottom of the league, and it's because you lost some guys. It's because Whitworth is getting up there in age, but their strong part of the offensive line is still probably Whitworth, who is the left tackle. So, but how long does he have? So I think Wills, could be the right tackle for now, and he could eventually be the left tackle. Havenstein is a guy that's really struggled this year, which is a little surprising, but you got to get the offensive line better for your quarterback to get better, and the Rams will know that. They will know that, so they're going to need to go get a guy like this. They don't have a first-round pick. Wills has had some first-round talk, but he really could go. He could go in the second, whatever it may be. Maybe you have to move around a little bit, but it's a guy I think with the flexibility of switching either tackle spots, and I think very worst-case scenario he can be a guard, which the Rams could use as well. So I like Wills for them. We're on to the Dolphins. Pretty interesting one because they have 3 picks in the first round, and they might be in spots, as we sit, to maybe be able to, maybe need to move for this guy. And that's Isaiah Simmons. And it's an interesting one because linebacker, really, everyone talks about the Dolphins' need being quarterback, being running back, receiver, offensive line, major offensive line need, and major pass rush need. In linebacker, they may be okay, in terms of the names, the players they have. But if you look at Brian Flores' defense, the most important part of that defense, the key part, is the linebacker position. And we've seen it with the Patriots. They run their 2 linebacker sets. They run with Hightower and Kyle Van Noy. Van Noy, very, very, very important, more important than people think. And that's kind of the type of player you're getting with Simmons, and some way more athletic ability, way more range, a guy that can drop back in coverage, control that whole defense, and he's an excellent blitzer. So you're getting your passers from there too. This is the future of the defense. This is the guy that runs their defense, and that's what Flores wants. We've seen the Patriots in the past who he coached. They got away with having average to below average pass rushers because the talent of the linebacker and the role they play, and Isaiah Simmons I think would fit that perfectly. And I think the Dolphins have the secondary. They can use maybe a 1 piece, 2 pieces here and there, but I think they got what fits there in the secondary. Isaiah Simmons to me is a Brian Flores guy, a guy that can control that defense. On the freak athletes, and it's kind of odd, it wouldn't be a high reach where the Dolphins pick now with their first pick, but maybe a little higher for, comfort, so you can move back down with that spot a little bit or move up with the second spot. I'm just kind of going off where they would be picking now, because it's, mock drafts, because of where they're picking now, you don't really see Isaiah Simmons going there, but things will change, and I really think it's a guy they would like, but, if they're sitting on the board, and somehow a guy like Chase Young's there, or you got your quarterback that you really like there, then obviously you got to go that route, even though Simmons is the fit, so not guaranteeing they end up with him, but I do think he's a great fit. The Vikings, cornerback, Trevon Diggs, yes, from Alabama, and I know what you're thinking. You gave them Diggs because Stephon Diggs. You gave him their brother, and that's actually not true. It's not because of Stephon Diggs. It's because of their head coach. It's because of Mike Zimmer. Everyone knows Mike Zimmer's a defensive guy. He's a corner guy. You know, he's known for his corners, even though the corner plays a little rough this year, but he's known for developing those guys. And to me, Trevon Diggs is Zimmer's realistic dream corner. And the reason I say realistic is because there's always been dream corners, I'm sure, but they just were not able to go up and get, because it seems like the Vikings are picking in the middle of the first at the very earliest. It seems like it's been a while since they picked at the top. You know, I'm thinking Matt Khalil's the last time they picked up the top, and they desperately need an offensive lineman. But realistic dream corner, because, you know, where they are projected to pick, I think you can get him. But why does he fit Mike Zimmer? You know, Mike Zimmer, he's very picky about his corners, very specific. The guy needs to be able to be physical, you know, physical at the line, even physical. You know, he's got all these corners that are a little too handsy, honestly. They get the PIs, but that's the corners he likes. You know, he needs them to be physical, and they have to be, you know, they have to be athletic, so they have to be reach a certain standard there. But what do you mainly get with those types of corners? You don't really get playmaking ability, and it's common because the physical guys, even though they're athletic, you know, they're not the biggest playmakers. That's kind of what the Vikings are lacking, you know. Even the years the corners played really good, you know, when Xavier Rhodes was a top-tier corner, you know, the corners didn't create turnovers. You know, they didn't get their hands on the ball, and that's why Trevon Diggs is kind of that realistic dream corner for Mike Zimmer, because he's physical at the line. He meets the athletic standards of him, but he's a playmaker at the same time and gets his hands on the ball. And if you watch the LSU Bama game, people were kind of getting into Diggs a little bit because he was getting beat by Jamar Chase. I actually love what I saw from Trevon Diggs. You know, statistically, yeah, he got beat. Well, number one, Jamar Chase is going to be receiver 1 next year. That guy's unreal, but he's got to wait another year. But Diggs was, you know, I liked what I saw. I liked his technique. He was able to press very well at the line. He was a little over-aggressive in his press. He was a little over-aggressive at times, which forced him to get a step behind Jamar Chase, while Chase always had a step on him. But I like his hips. I like his technique. And that's just something you clean up. And it's a guy that doesn't have a whole bunch of experience at the corner position. Zimmer loves those types of guys. This is their guy, and it happens to be the year that they need corner the most. So very interesting. And you get Stephon Diggs' brother. I guess that makes him happy too. The Patriots. I like Cole Kmet from Notre Dame, a tight end that nobody is talking about. I mean, maybe some people here and there, but people are focused on other tight ends right now. Kmet is a beast. This guy is a beast. He's an NFL tight end. You know, when he came into Notre Dame and where he is now, I mean, the improvement is ridiculous. You know, just looking at the guy, he's a freakish guy. You know, when the ball is thrown up to him, he's a man amongst boys, and he can block at a high level. Patriots need that tight end. You know, they may need other stuff too, but they need that tight end. They're missing that Gronk. He's not Gronk, but you honestly could see some similarities there. Like I said, when he just feels like it's a man amongst boys. It's a tight end that really not enough people are talking about. He's very dominant, and it's a guy the Patriots can, you know, grab, you know, late day 2 or early day 3, possibly too. You know, all the other offensive talent kind of pushing the tight end down a little bit. This guy's a freak, and I think it's really a guy the Patriots would really, really like. So that's an interesting one. You know, they're going to be in the market for that tight end because that's what they're missing right now. And people think about it because the receiving ability downfield, but the blocking is also upgraded with a guy like this too, and that's what they need as well. To the Saints. What do the Saints need? You know, an Alabama player, apparently, because all these teams are getting Alabama players. Like I said, this is the best Alabama team in terms of draft I've ever seen. It's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. But what do the Saints need? They need speed. They need more targets at the receiver position, but they need speed. You know, Ted Ginn was a crucial part of that offense. You know, he's not the same as what he used to be. Still pretty impactful for them. Michael Thomas, kind of that physical contested catch. I mean, he does it all, honestly, but he's more that physical contested catch guy. You need another playmaker. You need a speed guy. Henry Ruggs is that speed guy from Alabama. You know, he really can do it all because of his speed. You know, I mean, it's going to be like an impact guy. You know, like you see like Tyreek Hill. You know, those types of guys, you know, and I mean, Ted Ginn did too. You know, he did it too. He beat guys deep purely off speed. You know, and that's definitely what they need there. A guy you can give underneath stuff to, or, you know, down the field. And I think they need a receiver pretty bad. They need another weapon in there. Take a load off Michael Thomas. Make it easy for the quarterback. Make it easier for Alvin Kamara, whoever's in that running back. Defense is playing better than it's ever played. Something you focus on this year. Henry Ruggs. you know, he's got a pretty big range within the first round. People are talking. You see some people that have him like top 12 even. And you got some people like, all right, he can go late first. I think the Saints could grab him late first. I think it's very possible. But that's the type of guy they need. The Giants went with the linebacker, Dylan Moses from Alabama. An interesting one. So the Giants are projected to be picking very, very early in the first. And they could get their linebacker, maybe Isaiah Simmons. Very possible. You know, I think so. I kind of went with a guy that could potentially be, you know, if we're looking into the draft, which is kind of too early to do that, but a guy that could potentially be their early second round pick, or if they want to trade up late in the first, this could be their guy. And this is a Gettleman type of guy. You know how important the linebacker position is for this team, and then you may say, well, why haven't they got the linebackers? Why haven't they, made sure they got him? You know, they're not just going to go grab him just to grab him. And the linebackers in last year's draft class, I know their focus was elsewhere in last year's draft class for a reason. You know, that Gettleman type of linebacker really didn't exist. It didn't really exist in free agency or the draft, mainly the draft. And Dylan Moses could be that guy. You know, they're going to want that highly instinctive, high-motor linebacker. And I think this is unlike the guys we've seen last year. This is kind of the guy that can fit. They want more of the instinctive guy. So I think he can fit even more than Simmons does. So they could be in the market for this. Gettleman's always raving about, how important that linebacker position is, but they don't really have those inside linebackers right now. He wants to find the right guy. He's not just going to go overdraft a guy for it. I think Moses can be that guy. And he can return to Alabama because he had an injury well before the season started, though. But we know he has a talent. You know, he's probably healthy by now already. It's been a while here, so he'll be healthy. I can see him going in the draft, and that could be a target for the Giants for sure. Early in the first round, they could go. I think offensive line is pretty important. On paper, their offensive line looks pretty solid, mainly minus that right tackle spot. But, they need to get better there. Daniel Jones, I hate to say it, he's got a fumbling problem. You got to keep him protected. You got to keep, your franchise quarterback protected. That's the number one key there. And so they could go offensive line with that first round pick there. To the Jets, went with Arizona State's receiver, a high riser here, Brandon AIYUK from Arizona State. This guy is, you look at Quincy Enunwa from the Jets, and I actually see a lot of similarities, and they liked Enunwa enough to give him the contract. Obviously not playing for them this year. He's a similar style receiver, but I think highly of Brandon AIYUK here. I think he could be that. I think he could be better. Really, I think he's a better prospect. You look at the potential. I think he's better. It's a do-it-all type guy. If you want to use him as a sideline guy, you want to use him coming across the field, and he has crazy ability after the catch, vision, and just ability to move around guys, be elusive. So I think this is the Jets type of receiver. And, you could look at the first round. It's very possible they can take a guy like Jerry Jeudy up there at the top of the first round. I think they want to focus on, offensive line or whatever that may be. If Chase Young's there, you got to take him. Look at guys like Jeff Okudah as a possibility. So where would they take that receiver that I think, and that's why I really wanted to use a receiver here, because I think they need a receiver very, very badly. I think more than people think. To help Darnold out, and you need to simplify it for Darnold. That's what you need to do, and I think a guy like this really, really does that. It's just a guy that you just get the ball to on a quick route and just, let him play. This guy could potentially be squeezing in the first round there too, so it's a guy to keep an eye out for. We are on to the Raiders. Derrick Brown, who could be one of the top players in the draft. I like Derrick Brown a lot. Very dominant player as a run stopper, but also getting after the quarterback. The type of impact like Quinn Williams, who was a top-tier player last year in last year's draft, type of impact there. Guy that can slide around the D-line. And, I've seen this guy be triple teamed at times. I really have, because double teams they were not enough. I've seen it multiple times. So it's ridiculous. And it might not be the Raiders' biggest need. You may look at, linebacker's a pretty big need. They could use another receiver. I think Abrams will be back, but, maybe another corner. Maybe whatever the need is, I don't really care. I like Derrick Brown for them a lot. Not saying they're guaranteed to take him, obviously. You may have to move up. They got the Bears pick. It's looking pretty good. But just pairing him with that defensive line, you got your edge rushers. You got them for the future, Crosby and Farrell. You got Maurice Hurst, who's more that 3 technique. Let's get that guy in there that can slide in from D tackle to nose tackle. That's dominant, that can make our defensive line go from worst a couple years ago to the defense line of the future. I just described Derrick Brown. All that says Derrick Brown. Maybe a guy like Javon Kinlaw from South Carolina as well. And this is a guy that's got Mike Mayock written all over him. It's going to be very, very high on Mike Mayock's board. Possibly top 3. You take away the quarterbacks from that board, obviously, because they like Carr. Brown could be top 3 on their board, and it's a guy that's probably not going to go top 3, but could go close. So I think it's a guy that makes that defensive line that much more nasty, and he'll be maybe a best player available for them. Eagles, I really like Justin Jefferson. I'm ready to lock him in as a first-round pick. And I mentioned earlier at some point, I talked about how there's so many Bama players, and this might be the best Bama draft team ever, but why aren't they the best team in football, in college football, even if that's the case? Well, it's because Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, guys like that. I mean, this guy is very talented. He's a do-it-all receiver. You can run him on any route. He can run the routes, catch the ball. He can high point the ball, contested catches. He can run after the catch. This is a very safe receiver prospect, and it's exactly the guy the Eagles need. They haven't really drafted the guys like this, though, so it's, I guess, maybe hard to see them actually doing it, but this is exactly the type of receiver they need on the field. They've had their Alshon Jeffrey. I mean, they still do, but how long are they going to have him? But that's the kind of their prototype receiver they had, and they exactly thought what I just said. How long are we going to have him? So they draft Arcega-Whiteside, same style receiver. I'm confident he'll get on the field at some point. His routes need his footwork mainly, not really his routes. His footwork need a little polish. I kind of said that before the draft too, which he should be fine. But you needed that receiver. So they were kind of specific on, we need that big body receiver on the outside, and we need just those slot receivers. That's where you're going wrong. You need the do-it-all receivers are the best. The guy that can play in the inside, play in the outside, run any route. Justin Jefferson's that. I think they'll realize that. It's a guy that can play along with Carson Wentz when he's at his best, rolling out, throwing on the run. It's a guy that fits that tremendously. The Eagles should use a first-round pick. I know people could argue corner's a bigger need. I think they need another pass rusher for the future. They should use their first-round pick on a guy like Justin Jefferson. I strongly believe that. I would love that pick. The Pittsburgh Steelers, Paulson Adebo, corner from Stanford, a guy that is, got some first-round talk, could be an early second. The Steelers don't have a first-round pick. They like Justin Lane. They're gonna love Paulson Adebo. Some similarities, some physicality to his game, but also pretty athletic. I love his footwork. When the ball's in the air, attacking the ball, that's kind of what stands out to me the most. But he's a pretty physical guy too, and he's got that length. So if they really like Justin Lane for their future, I guess he's not a big part of it right now, but for their future, they're going to like Adebo. That could be the corner duo of the future. I think they need another corner pretty badly, too. Right now, but mainly for the future. Adebo, I think, could fit them, and it's a guy that can be looking for, after round 1, of course, because they don't have a first-round pick. But it's a guy I can't rule out going in the first round as well. A lot to like about him, but there's a lot to like about, a lot of corners in this draft class. A very good draft class. Another thing I think they need is speed on the offensive side. I actually thought about kind of a speed running back, maybe Oklahoma State's Hubbard, because I know you have James Conner, who I like a lot, but he's got the injuries, and then you have Benny Snell. You need some speed there. Jalen Samuels, to me, isn't really a true running back. So that's actually something that I think is a little underrated, and that's why I kind of brought it up. I think it's an underrated need there. Seattle Seahawks. Clevon Chason from LSU, another LSU player, a defensive end. This is a pass rusher. And the Seahawks always like those kind of hybrid pass rushers. It's almost like, 1 year it feels like they're filling the need with it's just a strictly an end. One year they're getting that guy that can kind of be almost like a Clowney that can stand off the ball. And Chason's a mixture of both of them. To me, this guy's easily a first-round talent. A lot of people don't have that. To me, I love what I see here. Freak guy, and usually with these freakish guys, they don't really have the technique. I think he does. I think he's got some good moves. A guy, again, that can put his hand in dirt, can step up off the ball. LJ Collier, I like Collier, and he doesn't look that great right now, but that pick confused me because I thought he was a 3-4 end, and that's why I liked Collier. And the Seahawks are using him as a 4-3 end, or trying to use him, not really using a whole bunch. I think he's a 3-4 end. Maybe you can slide him in at the 3 technique. I know they have a lot of guys in and out. They have a very good rotation on the inside. I'm pretty sure Quentin Jefferson, who's a guy that rotates there, is a free agent. So it wouldn't shock me if they move Collier inside. I think it would work perfectly if Collier was playing inside a guy like Clowney, if they got him back, or a guy like Chason, two guys that have the ability to get inside, get their hand in the dirt, or step off the ball. And even if they do get Clowney back, I still like Chason from them. They can make an elite pass rush. and it's a Seahawk type of guy. It's their type of guy. Guy's a freak. He needs more first-round talk. I almost want to say he's a first-round lock because the upside he has too. I mean, a freak. You look at Danielle Hunter, who's on the Vikings. He was a absolute freak like this, but had way less production. And look what he's become. It's coming from LSU. It's kind of the similar thing there too. San Francisco 49ers. Interesting one here. It's Grant Delpit, LSU's safety. Interesting because the Niners are supposed to, projected to be picking very late in the first round. Delpit's obviously a first-round talent. Most people have Delpit around the top 10, maybe the top 12. I don't quite have him there. Not far off, but I don't quite have him there. So maybe the Niners would have to trade up a little bit. It wouldn't shock me if they actually dropped to the end of the first round because we know how the NFL, the people within the league, make a big deal out of size. It kind of does matter, especially when you're tackling people. You want to put a little more strength in this guy, which some people will be confident in. Some people just don't like it. So I think for that reason, he can drop just a tiny bit. He's not going to drop out of the first round or anything. But tackling at the same time is a problem. He's missed some crucial tackles, one-on-one tackles. He's good at assisting tackles. He is a playmaker downfield. And the Niners, adding another playmaker in that safety group. And he reminds me actually a little bit of Jimmy Ward, who is actually a free agent. I think he's a better version of Jimmy Ward. Again, who's going to be a free agent. I think this really fits that spot. Even it used to be there's strictly free safety, strictly strong safety. You got to have one of each. Today's NFL, it's just safety and safety. Maybe it's just one safety sometimes. Maybe some teams go three, one's in the box. It's just get your safeties, get the guys that can play. You want to have guys that can come up and hit. You want to have guys that can be playmakers. That's all it is. So Delpit can play alongside with any of those guys. I think he fits. I think he makes that defense that much better. And I don't think he goes as early as some people think. I know some teams will probably have a top 10 grade on him. Some teams may not even have a first round grade because they don't like the size combined with the tackling. But Delpit, Niners would be, and the Niners are a team that don't really have a lot of needs. They're pretty nice across the board there. Pretty balanced team with some firepower as well. So they could afford to trade up for a guy like this if they really like him. The Bucks, I went ahead and did it for the Bucks here. When I went ahead and gave him Tua, I know the recent injury makes things interesting. Where is he going to go? Where is this guy going to go? Still think he goes in the first round. He can drop a little bit right into the lap of Bruce Arians and the Bucks. I think it's a perfect situation. If he has to sit for a little bit, that's all right with them. Arians is back. It's only his first year. He's ready to groom his quarterback, and this is a quarterback that he would love to have. He would love to run this kind of this newer Arians system where he can, he creates the whole thing, I think he can make any system work too. And then Tua's big playability with guys like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin just makes so much sense. A guy that you still want a guy that can be able to move around the pocket too, move on the outside, throw on the run. And Tua's even better than that. And then Winston good at escaping sacks, good in throwing on the run sometimes. But a guy with that big playability, and here and there he'll turn the ball over. We've seen it in the Clemson game. We've seen it in the LSU game. Nothing ridiculous, just here and there when he's trying to make that big play because he has the big playability. It's kind of like Winston, but Winston has that way more turnover ability. So it's you're keeping the same style here, but you're obviously taking down the turnovers, but you actually may even have a little more big playability here. So I think the Bucks and Bruce Arians would be all over this guy if they have the opportunity. And the Bucks did a good job drafting on defense. We saw them. 2 years ago, they drafted quite a few corners, even in a row, I think it was. And Carlton Davis is turning out. But then last year when Bruce Arians gets in there, they're drafting DBs like crazy. They're filling out that defense. They did a good job in free agency with Shaq Barrett. They did a good job of switching defenses. So 2 years ago, Vita Vea, a guy like that, fits a little better. He can be good in the future. They got Devin White, just purely defense. Guy's going to be a stud for a long time. They did a good job focusing on that defense where they have the ability to do this. They actually can pull the trigger on this. So that is what's interesting. The Titans actually have an interesting one. We got another quarterback here. One with Jordan Love from Utah State. And a guy that actually could go back to school. Very possible. I heard he actually can transfer to Texas Tech. Heard that was a possibility. But people within the league are raving about him. Yeah, he has some turnover ability. He's a little raw. It's a guy that's definitely going to sit a year. Think kind of like Josh Allen. Think like that. Even though Josh Allen got in his first year, but in terms of the comparison, he's got that big playability downfield. He's missed some throws in his career, but he had some pretty bad receivers. Now, these receivers drop the ball a lot. His offensive line's pretty bad. He has that wild potential. We see some Mahomes at time, honestly, but some turnovers, some missed throws are pretty bad. They got to be fixed. But why the Titans? I think they can use the quarterback of the future. I think they can bring back right now or for this next year a guy like Tannehill for a year. Phillip Rivers' names came up. I don't know if that happens, but I think they can bring back Tannehill for a year or two. Can sign him for 2 years. And Jordan Love has kind of, you combine Mariota and Tannehill. And then maybe a little more big playability and maybe some more turnovers. Some similarities there. Sometimes the way he moves reminds me of Mariota. He has a little more big playability like Tannehill. He can move outside the pocket. It's one of those guys. There's a little risk there. And he's a potential guy that can go second round where the Titans can grab him, maybe move up into second round and take him. It's very possible. Or move back into the first round. It's very possible. And I think the Titans are they're pretty good. They got to re-sign Derrick Henry, but they drafted well at receiver. They added Humphreys. The offensive line could be retooled, but the defense is very young, so I think they can afford to do something like this. And like I said, I see kind of glimpses of Mariota and Tannehill with that extra big playability downfield. So I think they'll really like that, and they went away from Mariota mainly because he didn't have, that big playability that we thought he would by now. So they could like a guy like Jordan Love, very possible. Then, Jeffrey Simmons, big part of their future on the D-line. They could add another defensive line with him. Redskins, last one. Long video. Last one is the Redskins, and a guy they can definitely be taking with their first-round pick. It's Andrew Thomas, the best offensive lineman. He's an offensive tackle from Georgia. He's a plug-and-play left tackle instantly. Could be an elite prospect in this draft class. And the Redskins, on paper, may have a good offensive line. Some guys have been struggling a little more, and there's really not the right chemistry and connection with Haskins and the offensive line. Haskins is the future of that team. For sure, in my opinion, and you got to get that connection. You got to get this offensive line set. I'm more of a fan of getting the offensive line set before you get your quarterback, so you don't, cause any issues or cause him getting killed or anything back there. But Trent Williams, I don't think is part of the future. I think Andrew Thomas is a great comparison actually, and is a plug and play left tackle, which you need. So this is a big need and a great fit, and what they actually could be taking come draft time based on where they pick and what they need here. So Andrew Thomas, I think, could really, him and Haskins, getting Haskins and a year later getting Andrew Thomas, I think it makes a lot of sense. Could be something that's very realistic. We're a long way from the draft, and I'm already getting excited about these fits and these prospects and the best receiver class in NFL history, and maybe the best offensive, weapons in NFL history. So I'm really excited already. We started this channel with the draft, and I can't wait to cover it. Come draft time, 2020 draft time, all off season long. But we still got a lot of football left in season and a lot we cover every single day here. So please join us for that. Please subscribe. Trying to get to that 40K goal. We got extra content like mock drafts on our Patreon, link in the description. So check that out. Really appreciate you guys. Thank you for watching this video. Goodbye.